We had that for you guys.
Nice. Love it.
Bueno, hola, buenas tardes para todos. Gracias por acompañarnos una vez más en Azure en el Bar, en esta nueva edición que denominamos Gold Edition, con unos invitados especiales, como ya habrán visto todos, con Adam Saxton y Patrick LeBlanc. Bueno, esta iniciativa que justamente lo que intentamos hacer es juntar la comunidad de la TAM y acercar un poco más a lo que es Microsoft Corp y Estados Unidos sobre todo, que junto a Javier, Cristóbal y Gastón, bueno, llevamos un poco adelante esto con la ayuda obviamente de la comunidad y muchos de los colegas MVP que fuimos generando diferentes capítulos y teniendo un poco más de llegada a los diferentes lugares y ahí un poco poder de alguna manera poder lograr esto que es ya el capítulo número 16, cuando empezamos allá por abril, el primer capítulo, viendo cómo funcionaba, a ver qué hacer un poco para movernos y compartir un poco más con la comunidad. Bueno, hoy ya estamos en ese capítulo 16, 17 que bueno, que nos ha llevado un poco más adelante de lo que pensábamos y felices de poder seguir compartiendo con todos. Bueno, como todos saben, ahora voy a hacer el switch a inglés para poder conversar con Adam y con Patrick. Y bueno, hoy cambiamos un poco el formato, como verán todos, estamos los 6 conectados. Y bueno, un poco más de bar, aunque todavía no pudimos juntarnos, hacer un poco más de bar. Así que bueno, espero que disfruten todos el capítulo. So, hi Adam, Patrick, thank you for joining us. I met you years ago in the first SQL Saturday in Montevideo, so it's really a pleasure to have you and meet you again, and here in Azure in the Bar. So Azure in the Bar, for those who don't know, is an initiative who's born as a group of friends, colleagues from different countries in Latam to looking a way for connecting the community and share the expertise. So my name is Alex Rostan. I'm an Uruguayan, now living in Paraguay. I work as a country manager of Arcano Paraguay, a regional Microsoft company, and also an AI technical leader with focus on democratizing artificial intelligence, and I am an MVP in business applications. So that's the short story. So Gaston, please introduce yourself.
Okay, hello all. Happy to be here again with this Gold Edition. I'm really happy to hang out again with Adam Patrick. For the first time we met back in 2017. In Uruguay. My name is Gaston Cruz, another Uruguayan in living in Bellevue right now in Washington. We moved here with my whole family 1 year and a half ago. Yeah, it's been a rolling coaster since then. Working as a solution principal within Slalom, Microsoft Center of Excellence. I've been in the platform area for the last kind of 15 years, architecting solutions in different countries in Latam, and now just moving around with states. And I'm passionate about connecting dots, and build relationships, strong relationship with communities in South America and worldwide. So I'm really happy and glad to host this National Bar edition with Adam Patrick. So go ahead, Cristobal.
Thank you, Gaston. Hello, everybody. I'm happy and grateful to be with you again in this version of new chapter of Azure in the bar. I live in Chile. I work as digital data and analytics at Ernst & Young. I'm here because I worked at Metric Arts and we went acquired by Ernst & Young. In addition to that, I actively participate in the past Chile community. I also collaborate for the Power BI user group, where we are already more than 300 users. I'm very grateful for being able to collaborate with the Latin community. From now on, I hope you have fun today. And so, Javier, please introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you, Cristobal. Well, finally here, Javier Villegas from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Same as Gaston, Cristobal, and Alex. Extremely happy to have this dream come true with Adam and Patrick. So we've been telling them before that we've been looking for them since a while. I work at Mediterranean Shipping Company, and I'm also MVP in data platform category. And really looking forward for talk about something today, have fun, and learn about on-premise data gateway. Whatever that means.
We can. Oh no! That's good with the on-premise data gateway. We can have a whole conversation on Kerberos.
No, that is not going to happen. We've been talking about that. Please, first I want to correct Cristobal. He's running a 3,000 Power BI user group, not 300. 3,000 Power BI user is huge. The community of Power BI in Chile.
Trace zero.
Yeah. So that being said, as mentioned before, this is going to be a conversation about careers, about path, about roadmaps, experience, stories, mostly stories about communities and other stuff. So let me go.
I told Gaston earlier, though, there's some stories we can't say on this live show. I think all of us, we were engaged different SQL Saturdays and different community engagements. So that happens in the SQL Saturday or the summit itself. We cannot tell every story and each story back there. So let me go there and please, Patrick, introduce yourself and just briefly. Go there.
Briefly.
Define yourself.
Define yourself.
Patrick, I work for Microsoft and I'm on a little YouTube channel called Guy in a Cube, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. Nice to meet everyone, or meet everyone again.
Great, sounds good.
Adam, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh, Adam Saxton. I also work at Microsoft during my daytime. Patrick and I are on the same team, working with big enterprise customers and playing with all the new stuff, pushing boundaries. And also doing the little YouTube channel as well. Been doing that for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oof. Yeah, we've just been having fun, being on the interwebs, just connecting with people. We miss traveling. We miss traveling.
Yes.
Just living the dream. Living the dream.
Great. Yeah. Go, Javi.
All right. So, we would like to know a little bit more about you guys. So, basically, let's switch a little bit to the technical part, to your careers, what you've been doing. So, can you tell us about your technical background? And, how did you start in the IT world? How, you start all this crazy thing with the bits and bytes?
Yeah. Me first? All right.
Yeah, go.
Go. Mine was an accident. It was an absolute accident. I was a mortgage underwriter, believe it or not. I was underwriting mortgages for homes, and we had to travel So I've been traveling most of my career, my professional career, and I would take notes on a piece of paper. And it would take me forever when I got back to the office to like type it all up and then send it out. And so I was at this bookstore and they had a book on Access. And my mother-in-law gave me a little Go Access. You can't see it, but it's a little Toshiba laptop that's back there with a little bitty screen on it and had Access installed on it. So I created this Access database and started using it to take all my notes. And then someone in the company found out I created it and we deployed it out to the whole company. And I was like, well, maybe I should be doing IT. And so I started looking for jobs in IT, and it was just a complete accident. And then I became a DBA, and then I started doing business intelligence, and I met Adam, and here we are today.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you are one of the very first Access DBA?
Oh, was that Access
Yeah, he had to scale that up a little. So he added 2 Access databases.
The funny thing though, you laugh about it. When we got ready to deploy it, so there were 35 underwriters that we had to deploy this application to. Now you got to think about, this is running on Microsoft Access like 97 or 2000, whatever version was out back then. And the guy that he said, can everyone hit this database? And I was like, no. The book says only 5 people can connect to this database at the same time, or it's going to corrupt, and we need to upsize it to SQL Server. So there was this little upsizing window. I'd never heard of SQL Server in my life. And so we used this little upsizing wizard to upsize it to I think it was SQL Server 7.0 or something like that. And that's when I started, writing SQL and doing stuff like that. But it did not scale, so we had to upside it. So Access was the front end, and SQL Server was the back end. So
nice.
So you had to deal with concurrency issues.
Oh, it was awful.
You still do, right?
I gotta go to LinkedIn to promote the Patrick about Access right now.
Yes.
I can recommend that skill.
Yes, if you need help with your Access database, Patrick is your guy.
Exactly.
No,
He's starting a new YouTube channel on it. He's going to teach you all the ins and outs of Access.
Yes.
Yes.
That's gonna be cool.
Oh my goodness. So that was it, Patrick?
That's it. That's how I got started. And, it was a slow progression from there. I was a DBA at some mortgage companies, and then I met Brian Knight at a conference in Orlando, SQL Saturday, as a matter of fact. And he hired me as a consultant for Pragmatic Works. And then I luckily got a job at Microsoft. And then I met Adam. We were doing something strange at some conference. And then I remember Adam was like, hey, Patrick, you should be on Guy in the Cube. And I was like, I am not doing this because you got to sit in front of this camera.
There's more to it than that.
There's a lot more to it than that. But and he convinced me. And the first
it's been
10 videos were like the worst videos I've ever recorded in my life. But it's got much better. So it's got much better. Yeah.
Good.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Adam?
So I started the whole time. Originally, I wanted to be a jet pilot, like a fighter pilot in the Air Force. That didn't work out. So actually, that's a funny story too, but probably not worth it here. And then, when I realized that, okay, the military thing wasn't going to happen, I was like, I'm pretty good with computers. I've been using computers since I was like 11 or 12, playing around with, Visual Basic and playing lots of video games. And I decided that I was not going to, once I turned 16, I was like, I wasn't going to work in fast food or grocery store or anything like that. I was going to work with computers. Yeah. And so there was this little retail store called Egghead Software. And I started working there, and then a buddy of mine came in and said, "Hey, there's this new call center that opened up. This was in Tucson, Arizona, and we want. I think you'd be good. You should go interview for it." And I was 16, 17 at the time, and so I interviewed, and it was for supporting Windows 95 with Microsoft. So I was a senior in high school. And then I started doing my job while I was in high school was 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, supporting Windows 95 for like $10 an hour. I was like, that was a great high school job. And so I did that for a while. And as part of that in the call center, it got handed off to like some outsource company. And I started doing, one of my friends there started getting me into programming because I was all IT before that, right? Playing with Exchange, playing with Windows, taking down Microsoft's Exchange server. That was fun. I ended up getting into Visual Basic and Classic ASP and started playing. I actually started, Patrick, you'll be proud of me. I started there with an Access database too, and then quickly moved over to SQL 7. All of it was self-taught, never went to college. And then as I got better with development stuff, getting into .NET, and right when .NET was coming out, and I took some jobs learning that, and then eventually my wife and we were talking, we were like, hey, let's move back to the East Coast, because I'm originally from New York area, and I wanted to go back to the East Coast. I had fond memories of that when I was a child. We ended up going, I found a job in North Carolina, and as I read the description, I'm like, man, this sounds like the support center I was at in Tucson. It sounds like, it's the way it's described. It was through a vendor, but I'm like, that sounds like it. And then when I interviewed, it was a contractor job for Microsoft in their web data team, which was the developer support arm of SQL support. So it was doing all the connectivity, so SQL connectivity, ADO.NET, all of that stuff. It also included reporting services. So that was in December of 2005. And we moved out there, and then we quickly realized we didn't like the East Coast. And so then we found out that they were in Dallas, so we moved over to Dallas. That's what got me into Texas. And then, so I've been there for going on 15 years now. So that's, and then that kind of grew up. I was in support, and everything we did was just, it wasn't confidential, right? So we just did all those things, and I was like, we should just get it out there, right? Let's just help people, and that's what spawned the Guy in a Cube stuff. So I was literally a guy in a cube in the Las Colinas call center for Microsoft. So
yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
All right.
That's a great story, and actually, it's a great story for in my case, my kid is kind of 16, 17 years old, so that is kind of a great story to those guys that they are starting in IT or trying to figure out what is going to be my next move, because it's that age where you need to define a lot of things going on in your life, and you don't know, okay, should I go to college? What is going to be? How I can go to a new job? It's kind of is that uncertainty, and it's kind of it's a tough decision for
funny you mentioned that, because my kids are kind of teenagers now, and we're thinking college, we're thinking what's the future, and like I struggle with it because I'm like, if they want to go to college, more power to them, right? I will absolutely 100% support them. But then like there were some conversations with their teachers, and they're like, well, you need to think of blah 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 and go to college, and I'm like, I never went to college. I think of myself as fairly successful, so like it's not necessary if you know what you're doing, or there's a specific, like IT is a great career path where you can get that experience, right? So absolutely.
And I have a question about what you just mentioned. So you did support for Windows 95. Which version of Power BI were you running back then?
It was version -5. Yeah. It was always. There were some fun support stories there too. So
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go.
Oh no! I was gonna say there was one time I went in and I got frustrated with having to just say the same thing over and over again. Internally, I was on what was called the Mentor line, or that was kind of the escalation second tier, and I was so tired of it. And at one point, a guy called up, and he told me like how something had to do with like a Hotmail email address. Like you had to trying to connect something. I don't even remember anymore, but I was just like, no, you got to use a Hotmail email address. And he's like, no, that's not right. And I'm like, trust me, I'm right. I know. I did this. I tried it. This is how it works. My manager told me that's not how it works. And I'm like, well, your manager's wrong. And I'll bet you $1,000 I'm right. And so they went off. The next morning, I'm walking to my cube, and my boss is standing right in my cube. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, are you betting people on the phone? I'm like, oh, I'm like, come on. It was a figure of speech. And so we're like, all right, we got to head over to the tech guys and verify what you said. And I'm like, all right, we walked over there, and I was friends with those guys. And so that we explained the whole thing, and he was like, no, yeah, Adam was spot on. I'm like, all right, well, that's good at least. It turned out the guy's manager was listening in on the call, so that's why this all got bubbled. And as we're walking away, I looked at my boss, and I'm just like, so do I get the $1,000?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we're going to put you in this new role called a tech lead. And I'm like, so I got a promotion? I'm like, all right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to ask you, what is GuineCube for you too? What is it's a framework, it's an experience. What is GuineCube? I know a little bit of the story, but what is really GuineCube?
You want to take that, Patrick?
I think you're mute.
You got to figure out how to work the Go XLR.
So. I have no idea what GuineCube is. I have no idea.
You didn't get the memo. Now, GuineCube's an idea, right? Like I said, I was in support, and when we did training internally for the engineers, it was recorded, and we did like hourly. We called them triages, and it was frustrating that all of this information. There was a ton of information. We had this internal wiki. They recorded the triages, and I was just like, look, 80-90% of this stuff is not confidential. I'm like, why don't we just get it out there? And so then I started playing around. I'm like, well, there's this YouTube thing. I'm like, let me just go throw a video out there. And then I just started it. I didn't ask permission. I just did it. And I didn't have the right forethought of the future, thinking about where this was going to go. I figured from my end, I was like, I'm just toying around with this. And if anything, I figured like the Microsoft marketing team would shut me down because I wasn't towing like their message of what they wanted with the product. And all I was doing was just telling people like, all right, here was the issue and this is how we fixed it. And honestly, I was doing like for customer cases, like the video was almost the summary of what happened. Not using their data, but like just a demo that I brought up, and then it just went from there. And yeah, so it's just helping people with Power BI, and that the whole focus has always been on the customer and helping folks learn and grow with Power BI. So that's what GuineCube is.
Back then, 6 years ago, Power BI kind of needed some sort of push in terms of marketing, promotion, these kind of things. But today it's a brand. You don't need to.
Actually, and back then, the first couple of videos that were on the channel weren't even Power BI. It was like I remember starting with like a Hello World connectivity video, and there was a Kerberos video, and it was kind of centered around the stuff I was supporting. So it was reporting services. There was a couple of reporting service videos. There was connectivity videos. And this was when the first iteration of Power BI was out, right? Mm-hmm. So the Power BI for Office 365, right? The SharePoint integration, and so I did videos on that, and then I've been there since before it was even Power BI, and so it's just kind of grown along with it.
And there are a couple of things that I want to mention, for our audience here. First of all, the same link that you mentioned before, Adam, is besides the training and the formal education and all the stuff, is the way you do things in terms of how is your framework, in terms of organizing and believe in, okay, I'm going to jump into a YouTube channel, but I'm going to start with an organized framework. I want to be a pro in the whole environment. So,
Patrick, do we have an organized framework?
No, Gaston. Wait a minute.
I'm not talking about Patrick. I know Patrick.
Yeah.
No, honestly, really, honestly, if you talk to Adam, right, if you talk to us and you go, hey, we want you to come present at your conference in 2 months. I'm not kidding you. This is what happens. So you'll send me a note and say, hey, Patrick, what do you think about presenting? I'll email presenting at our conference 2 months from now or a year from now, or whatever. I'll email Adam or I'll call him because I don't do texts and all that. So I'll call him. I'll go, hey, man, such and such said, hey, can you come present at the conference? He'll go, yeah, what day? And then we'll block our calendar. That's what'll happen. We'll block the calendar. And then I forget about it. We forget. Well, I'm not kidding you. We honestly forget. And then probably about maybe a month before, we'll go, hey, man, we got this thing coming up. Okay, yeah, we'll get to it. And then maybe a week before, I'll say, Adam, we need to prepare for that session we're going to do in somewhere in the world. Oh, yeah. So we'll fly wherever it is, the hotel the night before. Adam and Patrick will go.
I think he's giving away too much here. We spend hours. We spend hours and hours.
No, we don't. And then afterwards, people will go, oh, my God, you guys spend so much time preparing for this. I'm like, what?
No, and there are people that have asked us, like, how long did you rehearse that?
Yeah.
We don't rehearse anything.
No, Adam's like this super producer. I kid you guys not. He's like this super producer, and he'll say, Patrick, you should say this. And then, right, he just comes up with these ideas, and I go, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And we do it, and it just works. And I think we've been fortunate. I don't know what it is, but it's like we do prepare. I mean, I joke and kid, and I make it, we do some preparation of the demos and things like that. But like what we do on stage, if you ask us to present a session on Introduction to Power BI Desktop in Chile, if you ask us to come to Chile and do it, we do it. And then you ask us to come to Argentina, it's going to be a completely different session. It's never going to be the same thing. It's never, because I don't know what Adam's going to say. He has no idea what I'm going to say. Nope. But when we say it, it's kind of like, oh, he said that. Now I'm going to say this.
We riff off of each other in the talk. Yeah. So up note, I did see Alex's comment, and he's like, the night before, I've seen Patrick in the hallway building his decks and demos right before. True story. Well, there was one time we were at I remember I think it was Stickle Saturday Atlanta, and I guess someone had not showed up, and so they came up to Patrick, and they're like, Patrick, can you do a talk in like 30 minutes? He's like, I got this. And it was like all demo talk, and then when it was done, we talked afterwards like, that was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Like, do you remember that? I'm like, no, I don't remember any of it.
It was really good. So I mean, we do think about things. Like we do some planning on like for pre-cons, you have to do a little bit of work on that. You can't just make that up the night before. And we've loved doing pre-cons full day talks. So we think about the thing we do also is we don't script things. We'll come up with bullet points and just kind of collect the thoughts of these are the points we want to hit on. And then we'll make sure we have demos for those things. Patrick's not a slide guy. I do more of the slide stuff. And the big thing with Patrick and I is that we balance each other. So I look at Patrick as chaos. And I'm more of the order, and we just kind of go with that.
Extreme chaos. Yes. This guy.
Yes.
That's good.
Extreme chaos.
Guys, we have a lot of people that participate in community events. So right now in the chat, we have a lot of people. So please give us your thoughts about community events.
Yeah, tell a little bit about the kind of very first community events that you attend and how you reach with community. Because
I've got a great story. Yeah. So for all the SQL folks out there, you probably know of a man called Bob Ward. Bob Ward was a mentor, and he's a good friend of mine. So when I was in support in Las Colinas, I actually sat next to him for like 8 years. So I learned a lot from him and Bob Dorr, Keith Elmore. Those were kind of the guys that the technical leadership on SQL support. And there was one day there, I started going to, Bob Ward did like this weekly triage internally for the engineers where you just bring your questions. He'd walk you through doing stuff. It's kind of like, Patrick, it's kind of like our Q&A thing on the live stream, but he did it in a conference room.
Yeah.
And so I started going, and someone told me that I need to go to that. And I'm like, I'm not a SQL guy. Like I do connectivity. I'm a developer, right? I'm not sitting there like, trust me, just go. And I'm like, all right. So I started going, and I started learning about SQL, even though I didn't support it at all. And I always like to learn about other things. And so I just started asking questions. I'm like, hey, when you say this extent thing, what the heck is that? And like, he just going through, and then he came up to me and he's like, you asked some good questions. I'm like, okay. And he's like, have you ever thought about doing a technical conference? I'm like, no, I didn't even know those existed. Like, I don't like being in front of people doesn't bother me. Like, that's fine. But I've never thought about it. And he's like, all right, so we got this thing that we participate in called Pass Summit. This was 2008. And I'm like, okay. He's like, so, well, we can do these technical talks, so just figure out a topic. And I'm like, all right, well, reporting services, SQL 2008, and reporting services 2008 was coming out. There was a re-architecture of RS at the time. I was like, why don't I just do a talk on that? And he's like, great. So just go figure out what it is you want to go do. And after a few weeks, I went back to him and I'm like, so how long do I have to prepare? Is this like an hour? Is it? He's like, oh, yeah. We like to start people before we introduce them to the main conference. We like to introduce them to this thing called a pre-conference. Like, all right, whatever. Like how? Like an hour and a half? He's like, oh, it's 8 hours. I'm like, what the? I'm like, what the heck is that? I'm like, like, what? You punked me. And he's like, a little bit. So my first experience in speaking doing any technical talk at any conference was Pass Summit 2008, doing a full day pre-conference, and that was my exposure to that. So he told me, he's like, yeah, he's like, get someone else to present with you. So I did the first 4 hours of the day on RS, and then I got someone else to do the second half on AS, and we had like 120 people in there, and like it was, yeah. And then I did like the pre-cons for the support pre-cons for like the next 4 or 5 years. That was my introduction to Pass Summit. Whew.
Wow.
Yeah. No, but I love it. Like speaking at events, it's just, I got to meet everyone. That's how I got to know the MVPs. I got introduced to Twitter there, and I got to know people more, and then reconnect at the conferences, and it really is a family, and yeah. it's like the family reunion every time you go back, and whether it's Pass Summit, whether it's Business Application Summit, whether it's SQL Saturdays, so it's really good. I love it.
It's really all about networking.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I've made so many connections through that. So it's and the bigger thing, and I'll challenge people as they go to event, once we can do this whole in-person thing again. When you're at these events, don't just stand in a corner. Like, go say hi to people. Go introduce yourself. Go make new friends. I'm like, that's how you get to know. That's the biggest thing you're going to get out of those events. You'll hear technical talks. There's stuff online now with YouTube and everything else. You can go find that. But making those connections and making friendships that's how Patrick and I met. It was at Pass Summit.
Yeah. Before something with Patrick and how he introduced them to the communities, all of us here, Cristobal, Javier, Alex, we met each other from SQL Saturday from the beginning. The first SQL Saturday in Chile with Patricio, Cofre. They invite to that one, and we met with Javier from there, Cristobal. I was back and forth from Chile, from Uruguay, and going there to speak into different meetups and user groups. That is the way, it's kind of that networking about community events, SQL Saturdays, NetConf, all that kind of community events, and it's a huge family. That's all.
true story. And this was completely like SQL family, Power BI family. I was coming back from Israel from a trip, and it was during Hurricane Harvey in the Houston area. Massive flooding. My flight got diverted to Chicago, and I didn't know what was going on. And I just went on Twitter, right? Like hashtag whatever. And I think I had 20 different people just ping me saying like, look, do you need a place to stay? Do you need, like, what do you need? We've got it. Do you need food? Do you need whatever? I'm like, everyone just kind of rallied around it. And I've seen that with other folks too, where it's like, and I've done that myself with folks like, hey, do you need anything? So everyone's there to support you.
Oh, definitely.
How about you, Patrick? How would you start with community events? How were you starting in those days?
I started my own users group.
Oh, nice.
I was working as a database administrator, hence the Twitter handle, Patrick DBA. And we had these .NET users group going on at the company I work for. And I would go to them and I would watch these people speak. And I was like, we need a SQL Server users group. And PASS was, I found out about PASS and they helped me set up my website. And we had built a data warehouse at the company that I worked for. I was managing all the DBAs and we built this data warehouse. And our data warehouse, this was back in like the early 2000s, and our data warehouse was almost 1 terabyte. So this was massive data back then. And Microsoft flew us out to the MTC in Dallas. And there was this guy there. They were doing the fast track reference architecture or something like that. And SQL 2005 was about to be released. And he gave me this slide deck and all these demos for SQL 2005 with database mirroring and all this stuff in it. And when I got back, I was like, you know what? We should start a SQL Server users group. And we started this users group, and I couldn't find a presenter. And I said, well, I'll present. I'll do it. I never presented on a technical topic before in person. And I did an introduction to SQL Server 2005. And everyone, the .NET users group was about 220 people, and only about 50 people would show up to the .NET users group. Well, the night of the SQL Server users group, we ran out of pizza, we ran out of drinks. There was like 160 odd something people there, and I had to present on Introduction to SQL 2005, and that's how I got introduced to the community, and that was it. Yeah, it was great.
And I'm just going to give a huge shout out to folks that organize SQL Saturdays and have to deal with all of that. Kudos to you. That's hard work. I know, Gaston. I know you're familiar with that.
You know that is going to be the next question for you guys. Why Uruguay? Why Uruguay? That is the next question that we have.
There was this guy that like reached out, and he kept following up. Like he was persistent.
He was.
And then I remember talking to Patrick too. Like we didn't know him. We're like, oh, he reached out. And that year was 2017. I think that was the year where I went to a lot of, I did a lot of traveling that year.
I think that was my first international trip.
That was your first international trip, yes. But I remember Patrick and I on the phone. I'm like, someone wants us to go to Uruguay. You want to do it, Pat? I have to talk Patrick into going to international events. Like he did not want to go, and I'm like, look, let's just go. And he's like, where's Uruguay? I'm like, I don't know. Let's go look at the map. We're like, oh, it's in South America. Look at that. We can go down there. So I mean, we worked out travel and all of that, and we ended up going. We're like, yeah, let's go. And that was Uruguay was. I still think that was it was a small event, but like Gaston was there, and just all the folks that were there. Daniel was there. He's in the chat, and Patrick and I still talk about that event. That's the one we remember like the most vividly. We had so much fun, and the folks running that event also, they were with us like every night. Like nobody. We were never left alone in terms of, because, we're in Uruguay, a lot of people speaking Spanish, and we didn't speak Spanish. And so, like, we always had someone with us to help. Yeah. Patrick has a good story at the airport on the way home where Gaston had to rescue him a little bit. So it was a great event.
It was great. When I was flying down.
No regrets.
Because I flew from Atlanta. and I had to fly into Brazil. And so I get on the airplane, and I'm sitting, not in first class, but like in the premium seats. And the lady walks up to me, and she's speaking, I think, Portuguese. And I don't speak anything but English. I barely speak English. And I was like, what? Like that. And she goes, you're not Brazilian. I was like, I'm not Brazilian. And I was like, I'm American. And so we were in the air at this point. And so they got a kick out of it. And so she said, no, you look like you're from Brazil. I'm like, no, I don't think so. And so the next flight attendant comes up, and she's speaking Portuguese. So the whole flight, it was just a big joke. So we land in Brazil, and we get off the plane, and we have to go through, you have to go through this connection thing. It's a makeshift security checkpoint in the Brazilian airport.
Oh man, that was scary.
Yeah, we get to this place, and there's a guy in front of me. And the lady's like, you got to take your shoes off. You got to take your laptops out your backpack and all this stuff. And I'm taking it out. Right. And I'm like, OK, well, that's fine. Oh, you want me to take off whatever you want me to take off. And the guy in front of me was like, I got TSA pre. And I'm like, TSA pre? We're not in America, dude. We're not in the United States. This is Brazil. And she's like, you got to take this off. He's like, I'm not taking anything off. Well, let me see your manager. She's like, I'm the manager. And I'm like, hang on one second. What do you want me to take off? I'm going to take off everything, and then I'm going to go through security.
We're going to get through security.
I'm going to get through security. I just need to get down to Uruguay because that's where I'm going. I don't care about what this guy's trying to do. It was insane.
Not with him.
He did not take anything off. I was gone. I was sitting in this wonderful. I will tell you this: if you go to Brazil, go to the Sky Clubs or whatever they have, because in America you gotta wait for somebody to serve you beer or cervezas. You gotta wait for them to give you your beers, right? But if you're in Brazil, there's like taps and refrigerators, and you could just drink as much as you want to drink in the Sky Clubs.
Internationally, in any country, the Sky Clubs.
Not Africa, not Africa, my friend. It's not like that in Africa. And so, but the crazy thing is, when I landed in Uruguay, this is a true story. I cannot make this stuff up. So I was drunk. I was loaded, man. I had been drinking. Then I got on a flight from Brazil to Uruguay, and I was drinking more. And when I landed, they were like, "Okay, so you're gonna do this pre-con tonight?" And I'm like, "Tonight?
No.
On analysis services, it was a 4-hour pre-con." I was like,
"Oh, okay." It was just a regular session at the Microsoft office that we didn't even know about. This goes back to our preparation. We had no idea.
I was like, "All right, I'll do it."
Yeah. Oh, we were so tired.
Wow, man.
What words did they learn in Spanish?
Hola chicas, muy bonita.
Daniel actually did a great job of educating us.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of it. We had some. He tried to. There were words for pillows that I did wrong, and it was something else. Cervezas was the big word that we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cervezas.
Yeah.
And what about the asado barbecue?
Oh,
remember that one?
I got video of that.
What about the sandwich that Adam destroyed?
Chivito. I got the name. We were talking about that in chat. I got the name. Gaston called me Hurricane Saxton after that. Well, and I remember too, like I did, because I had my camera with me, right? Yeah. And we went to some bar we were playing pool at, and I got like the video I did of that. I'm still really proud of that video. That was a great video.
That was really amazing. Really.
And so I reached out to that bar and I said, "Hey, FYI, I've got," and they took the video and then used that for advertisements and never. I'm like, oh, like whatever.
It was good. It was great.
It was a great time.
It was a great time, man. And we went to this indoor market that looked like it was outdoors, or it was amazing. It was the whole trip. The whole trip was just, and we rode along the coast and we saw this water.
Daniel took us along the coastline.
Oh man, it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
It was
beautiful.
Fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
You back there, you delivered the pre-con on-premise data gateway, among other things. I remember.
And then the pre-con on.
I did mine on.
You did an analysis services, and then ended up discussing about the on-premise data gateway back then, and then on Saturday,
yes,
you delivered like 2-3 sessions.
So we did the first one we did was kind of like our little personal power hour.
Yeah, power
like a bunch of fun things, and then I don't remember what. I think you did an AS session at the end of the day too.
I think so.
Yeah. All I remember is the cardboard cutouts of
Britney.
No, it wasn't Britney. It was Taylor Swift. It was Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
And then Justin Bieber also.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yes. And then, so pro tip for those that are traveling internationally to a SQL Saturday, do not fall asleep on the couch during a SQL Saturday event. Pictures will be taken. Good time.
It was so fun. It was so fun. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Right.
Well, guys, next question to you is a little bit challenging, I believe. What is going to be next for Guy in the Cube? How do you see Guy in the Cube from now to, let's say, 5 years?
I just had a great idea, and I didn't talk to Patrick about this at all. Patrick, you're gonna love this. We should make videos.
Oh.
Is that it? You know what we talk about? I can't tell how many ideas and things that Adam and I bang around in our heads about Guy in the Cube, doing another channel, talking about other technologies, doing more courses. It's so many ideas that we try to come up with, and then people will go, "Oh, you guys are so busy." I will tell you this. Adam and I are some of the laziest people you will ever meet in your lives. Some of the laziest people you will ever meet in your lives. And so there's lots of ideas and lots of things that you guys will probably never see, but because we're so lazy. But I can tell you this, one of my goals, and I tell Adam this all the time, is I talk really fast. You guys, I talk extremely fast, especially when I get excited. And so one of my goals is to continue to make high quality videos, right? Really things that I think people can use immediately when they watch it and not be so as random. So somebody was like, Patrick's all over the place these days. And one day he'll talk about images in a database, then he'll write some DAX, then he'll do this. So we tried this already, but I'm going to try to be a little more focused, talk slower, but continue to make some really good videos that people can walk away with and use immediately in their organizations, right?
So Fernando in the chat made a good point, Patrick. He said he didn't think you were lazy, you were just efficient.
Yeah, that's what I tell my wife.
And we have had a lot of ideas, and we just haven't. I would say we're comfortable. And I mean, we both love our day job, working on the Power BI Cat team. It's exciting. We get to work with a bunch of things, work with the biggest customers. And we're actually working on something on the Power BI Cat side that will be landing on YouTube at some point, not on the Guy in the Cube side. So it's something else. Mm-hmm. So we're working on that. And then just the Guy in the Cube side, we're going to continue doing the videos. We love doing the live streams. And we'll see what 2021 has. So I definitely don't see it ending. I just don't know if we'll execute on the ideas that we've had. I don't know. We'll see. Mm-hmm.
I want to be in person. I can tell you guys this. I want to. One thing that I dream about is, and I want to do the live stream in person somewhere. Right. I want to sit in front. I do. Adam, I never told Adam this. I want to have a live Stump the Chump Q&A session where Adam and I are sitting on the stage and we got the cameras and the lights and all these people and everybody's
makeup people.
Yeah. And I have a bowl of just green Skittles. I
thought it was blue M&Ms. You changed?
I changed. I don't like all the chocolate. It breaks me out. So I just want pure sugar. The green Skittles, and do a live stream in person. So I just can't wait. I'm hoping. I told Adam, because I'm the optimist, this fall we're going to be in person somewhere. Next fall.
So one of the greatest things, talking about the events and stuff, we did. It was the last Business Application Summit in person that we did. It was in Atlanta. And we did the Power Hour. So Matthew Roach and myself, we were organizing it. And that event was off the hook. We were watching the registrations, and it was 18 hours before the actual session where I was talking to the event organizer, and I'm like, you guys have to move us to another room. Like, we're watching the numbers of the people that are signing up for the session. The room they had us scheduled for was like holds like 400 people. We're like, this is not big enough. Like, you need to get us to like a room that holds like 700. Like, we're tracking that. We got to have that. And as we were going on the night, I had to escalate to Arun Ulag, who's the VP of Power BI. He had to go talk to someone to get us into a bigger room. And the room we ended up in, they said, okay, we can hold 1,300 in this room. We're like, all right, cool. And they had to do like some switching. It was crazy. We ended up standing room only in that room. It was nuts. And this was all, they kept telling us too. They're like, you're like, don't look at those numbers. You're never going to get the actual, there's going to be fall off. And I'm like, trust me, you don't know this session. There will not be fall off. Like, everyone comes to the session, and we were advertising the crap out of it. And oh my God, it was so, and they had the big cameras and the official audio thing. It was amazing.
I'm going to tell you guys something that Adam did not say about all of this, right? So he said he and Matthew were coordinating this, right? So I'm off presenting at MBADS. I'm off at a session with Chris Finland talking about
I had to negotiate.
And so I hadn't seen them for a bit. I hadn't seen them. Chris Finland and I recorded a session with the Paginated Report Bear, and we did our own session about paginated reports. And so I see Adam and Matthew, and they go, oh.
No. Matthew hit you first, and I saw Matthew was talking to you, and I ran over. I'm like, whoa, I haven't told him yet.
And so you guys have been to conferences before. In the evening times, you like to hang out and drink and see people that you haven't seen in a long time and stay out as late as you possibly
Patrick
can.
Was talking about how excited he was to be able to do that.
Right. And I'm not bragging, but when you're kind of a big deal like me, you can call a conference up and say, don't put my sessions in the morning time. I'm not a morning person because I want to hang out with Gaston. I want to hang out with all my friends and drink and sleep in. So I walk up to them, and I prepared this way. My session was like after lunch, and
like, so I got time to prep it.
I hadn't even prepared for the session. I wasn't even ready for this session. So I walk up to Matthew, and he goes, oh, by the way, your session's at 8:00 in the morning now. I was like, what the
I was running over, and Patrick caught me on the side of his eye, and he's just like,
Wait, like, what the I cannot present at 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm not even ready for this session. Well, you asked him how the session went that morning.
We got in that session too. I was there. I was front row. And he just he was grumpy. Like, he was not happy. And like, people started asking questions, and he's like, look here, this is how this works. And like, and people like loved it. And I'm like, what the heck? They're like digging this. Like, he was a jerk. He was really a jerk in that session, and he kept looking at me. I'm like,
I remember that one, and I was really late the last night, and the face of Patrick, I was there. What the heck is doing this?
That was not a happy fellow.
That was a great event, though.
That was a great event. That was our last one, though, right? That was our last in person.
No, so we did the Power BI World Tour stuff, and so in February we did the Houston World Tour, and then we went to Atlanta in February, right before everything got shut down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That application summit was amazing.
Oh man, it was great.
It was great.
Yep.
Yeah, Power Hour. And then they wanted us to do it when they transferred to the digital.
Yeah.
For that and Pass Summit, they wanted the Power Hour. And I'm like, no way.
Oh, no way.
Like, we can't do that digigital. It doesn't transfer. You got to be in the room.
Yeah, you got to be in the room.
Got to be in the room. Right. It was great.
Okay. I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about the future. What is the next wave in IT? What the next year? What do you see about that?
Yeah, what are the technologies that you just start thinking right now? Okay, this is quite cool. I need to jump into this, or any advice, for communities. Okay, for those guys that they are starting with different technologies, ramping up in data platform or whatever. Right now, there's so many Azure services and all the stuff, and it's
Every
coming.
minute we have a new one.
Yeah, and it's coming everywhere. It's coming from everywhere. It's not just Power BI. It's kind of the linking between those technologies and different technologies, and they are ramping up with artificial intelligence. It's everywhere. So, what are you thinking about? Kind of what is the next wave?
So the thing that I run into every day that I think that people should really start considering is not just big data, but large volumes of data. And because our customers, the stuff that Adam and I, people say, oh, I got 100 million rows. That's nothing.
That's cute.
That is nothing. That is
nothing.
An Access database, right? The new Access database.
It can run on my laptop, right? 100 million rows is nothing. I can run that on my laptop. The stuff we're talking about are, we're talking billions. I was on with the customer and they were like, every hour we get 1 million rows of data into this thing and we got to figure out how to stream it, but we need to couple it with some imported data. So for me, if you're in this arena, right, if you're listening to us, you're obviously a data professional. It's not learning how to deal with data, but learning how to deal with any type of data. I hate people put an adjective on my data, big data, small data. It's you need to become efficient at dealing with data, regardless of the technology. I don't care what the technology is. You need to have some knowledge of how do I structure or how do I manipulate this data so that the people that need the information out of it can pull the data out of it. So, we work for Microsoft.
I have an adjective for it, Patrick.
I hate adjectives.
I know, but I have one. It's not big data. It's not massive data. It's good data.
Good data. All right. I'll take that one. I'll take that one.
So it's like the thing we see is like people just try to shove everything into like, the single table or, I've got 300 million rows and this thing is massive and super slow. And I'm like, that's nothing. I'm like, this should be going really fast and should be really small. I'm like, no, but our guys are really good data modelers. I'm like, not if you're talking to me. I'm just saying, you called me. Like, what's going on? So just taking the time to understand how this stuff works. Go read this book. Go read it. Like, understand this stuff, right? It's learn the concepts. And I would say for whatever you're trying to go do and whatever the next thing is, the artificial intelligence, the real-time streaming data, any of that stuff, like learn the concepts of how you work with data, and then you can transfer that to anything. Whether it's Power BI, whether it's SQL, whether it's, I know Google BigQuery and Snowflake are big deals, whether it's, the other BI folks that start with a T, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Because, people, I think somebody said this about 5 years ago, data is the new oil. Data is everything, right? Yeah. Data drives your business. And so if you understand data and understand how to work with data and massage it and get intimate with it, I tell my son this. My son's 20 and I keep telling him, you need to do this. And he's like, Dad, I got my own thing. And I'm like, data is the way to go, regardless of what technology you use, how you want to present it. If you know how to make it accessible, if you know how to allow people to get to it really quickly, you'll have a job the rest of your life.
And I would say learn how to tell a story with it too. Don't just throw numbers on a thing, because that doesn't. Learn how to tell the story.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that you mentioned before. It's kind of the data should be accessible for every person that make a decision, and that one I've been talking with my son about that. About kind of this, tell a story. And
make the data
that is a whole thing, how to tell a story behind the scenes, and more about what Patrick mentioned before is kind of sometimes we consider that we are dealing with big data, and now I am in an IoT project, and I was thinking, okay, until now I was dealing with big data. No, I am not dealing with big data. Now I'm dealing with big data. It's kind of, man, that is the data's coming and just dealing with the ABX plus Snowflake, whatever. It's kind of you need to understand how you can start thinking about this kind of data.
Yep. And I'll say also, like the videos we talk about best practices. We talk about how to get the most out of performance. And I know the easy thing is to just when you're working with that smaller sets of data, you can get away with stuff, right? You're not going to see the ugly baby. It's when you get to scale where you see the ugly baby. Yeah. And so people will start, they'll just do the shortcuts, right? We'll do the single table. We'll do these things. Take the time, even though you're not working with big data or large data sets, take the time to learn the right things, right? So then when you get that opportunity, then you're going to go into it with the right skills.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Great. We are almost there.
I have one
Javier's
more
jumping in.
little question. Basically, we have started with this Azure and Elvar at the beginning of the pandemic, and of course, you guys are something that we look forward to. Advice on technical, on communication, on community, on everything. So I would like just to, briefly, if you can mention about this thing that you reach I don't know how many followers in YouTube, and you got that award, which you made that video, right? If you can just mention about it, because to me was awesome over there. Yeah, now we're talking. Yeah, if you can just briefly mention something about that. What that it means for you.
It was awesome. It was an achievement. So for me, like it was it took 5 years or whatever it took to get there, and it was that accomplishment, right? It was, look, subscribers at the end of the day, it doesn't it means something to me just because those are the people that we've reached. But it's a badge of some sort, right? But to reach that achievement for someone, when I started, I'm like, this isn't going to go anywhere. And the long haul it took to get there, that just reaching that achievement, it's I cried a little bit. Patrick can tell you, I was like, yeah.
Because to get there is tough. But to maintain up there is even tougher, right?
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. So one thing Adam always says, and he says this to me a lot, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. If we a while ago, I don't remember when it was, we started releasing 4 videos a week.
I had that brilliant idea.
He had this great idea, and I was like, holy smokes. And so I started struggling with ideas, and I was like, I cannot do this 2-minute thing, man. I talk too much. I need to. And so we ditched that one. But if you look back, when we started, when I only can talk about from when I started, whatever we did, and because Adam is he's the director, the producer, the writer, the editor, and he's not the editor anymore. Thank God he's not the editor anymore, because I found out he's not that good at it. I thought he was the best, but he's not that good.
Greatest.
No. Thank God he's not the editor.
Then he's like, Adam, you need to stop editing my videos.
Edit my videos anymore. But what I found out, the most important thing was there's 2 things, right? You got to be consistent. And when I do the videos, I recorded a video for next week, and he called me. He was like, you weren't there in that video. You weren't there in that video, Patrick. And he's honest. He's brutally honest with me about these things.
No, what I said was, I'm like, look, I brought Patrick on board for the entertainment, and Patrick doesn't show up until halfway through. What's up?
But the video next week, I'm talking about the one next week, and he called me. He was like, it's good, but you weren't feeling it. I could tell you weren't feeling it. And so the thing that I would tell you guys is you got to depend on each other, because we depend on each other, and Adam keeps us consistent, and I call him. I was like, I'm going to do a video on this, and it's some crazy technical, like I have one and it's coming out and he doesn't want me to release it, but it's coming out. It's crazy technical. It's going to be 5 people are going to watch it, but there's this balance, and you there's 4 guys here, that you're working together, and you have to balance each other out. You got to keep everyone honest, because he'll call me and go, look, I need that video, by this time, such and such. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get it, man. I'm gonna get it. But if he needs me, he can call me up and go, hey, can you do this for me? And I got it, man. I got it for you
today.
So you got to be able to trust each other, right? And there has to be balance. Like, Gaston may slack because he's a slacker. I kid, right? But if he slacks, then you got to pick it up, Javier. If there's got to be a little bit of give and take. Like sometimes I'll call, I'm not going to be on a live stream this weekend. And you know what he says? I got it. I
thought you were saying you actually weren't going to be on the one this Saturday. I'm like, what the?
No. I'll be here this Saturday. But I'm just saying, I say all that because I talk a lot, but I say all that is we balance each other, and you guys will have to balance each other, and you have to stay consistent. But the most important thing is I enjoy this. Yeah. I don't do this for the subscribers. I don't do this for the money. I don't do this for the fame. I kind of like being a big deal. I kid. But I do this because I honestly hate Saturdays because I don't have an excuse to get up early and come downstairs and tinker on my laptop. I hate the weekends because I don't get the chance to come down and tinker. But I really, really love recording the videos, learning stuff about Power BI and analysis services and data warehousing. If you can get to that point, I think if you can get to that point with what you guys are doing, the consistency will be easy. Having each other's back will be easy, and it'll just grow. It'll just grow naturally.
The other thing is, look at the long game, right? Don't think about the short game. Yeah. It's baby steps to get there. So like there was an example in time early on where people gave me feedback. I used my hands way too much. It was too distracting.
Like me.
Yeah, it was like all over the place. I'm like going like, And so for 3 weeks, doing the videos for a 3-week period, I sat on my hands. I just picked one thing, and I'm like, I'm working on that for like a week or 2. And I'm going to work on that. Then it was smiling, and then I had to work on Patrick, and that's where the yo came from.
Yeah.
So, it's like, just work on things, tweak little things here and there. Don't think like you got to do everything right now. You got to build the consistency and just keep showing up and get through. There's going to be a period on that journey where you just are like, this is not going anywhere. I'm not seeing anything, and I'm just going to quit. Don't do that.
Don't quit.
Keep going. And it's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It's a ton of work.
Yeah.
That is so great. Yeah.
One more thing. Don't take it personal, right? Don't take anything that people say about what you guys are doing, the live stream, whatever. Because I say this. I read a comment the other day and I got my feelings a little bit because I don't know if you noticed, because most of the world noticed ASK. I don't pronounce it ASK. I say AX. AX. And somebody put a comment. It was like, I was about to subscribe, but you say AX instead of ASK. And I was like, well, I can't help it. I grew up in the South of the southern part of the United States. I have a little, that's just how I talk, And if you don't want to subscribe because of that, that's your problem, not mine. You're missing out on all this great content. Yep. So people will come at you with, things that could be offensive, ignore them. It's just noise. Because you know what? Adam told me this. You don't make it until you have haters. People are going to, when people start hating and being mean, that's when you know you finally made it. All right, I'm going to be quiet.
Sounds great.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to wrap it up here. I just want to say that thank you very, very much for this, Adam and Patrick. We really enjoyed to be here with Azure Bar and just sharing kind of some stories, experience, with all of the LATAM communities. We've been missing all the in-person events as yourself. So again, Thank you very much for the time to do this.
Anytime. Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna change to Spanish to say goodbye, but first, Patrick, Adam, thank you for your time, and
Alex, thanks for having us.
I hope you enjoy as we do So we talk soon again. Bueno, gracias a todos por habernos acompañado. Espero que hayan disfrutado esta sesión como nosotros. Como habrán visto, nos divertimos mucho como siempre hacemos con Adam y Patrick, pero bueno, en este caso particular en Azure en el bar se disfruta un poquito más también, así que bueno, espero que todos lo hayan disfrutado. Y bueno, los invitamos el próximo 10 de diciembre, nos va a estar acompañando Donna Sarkar, así que bueno, va a ser otro Azure en el bar especial, compartiendo y contando un poco de historia de Donna, que está bien buena y que siempre comparte cosas bien interesantes de lo que va sucediendo en la comunidad de Power Platform y demás, así que bueno, los esperamos el 10 de diciembre. Así que gracias a todos y que tengan una buena jornada. Chau, chau.
See ya.
See ya.